Arsenal fans, welcome back to the Gunners View. There is a huge amount happening around Arsenal as we enter the final stages of the summer transfer window, and today we have some very important updates that could completely change the Gunners squad before the deadline. The biggest story is, of course, Julian Alvarez. Arsenal are still pushing to sign the Argentina international from Atletico Madrid, and there has now been another important development surrounding the striker, including reports of a meeting between Alvarez and an Atletico Madrid chief. But there is a major problem. Alvarez's preferred destination is reportedly Barcelona, while Atletico Madrid have made it clear that they do not want to sell him to their La Liga rivals. So could Arsenal take advantage? We will also talk about Gabriel Martinelli and Al Hilal because an agreement between the clubs has reportedly been reached. We have updates on Kenan Yildiz, Arsenal's interest in Matias Fernandez Pardo, and the arrival of young talents Igor Tyjon, Habib Ogunay, and James Scanlon. And we will finish with the latest Champions League draw situation, including Arsenal's possible opponents. So make sure you stay until the end because there is a lot to get through. Let's get straight into it. Let's start with the biggest story, Julian Alvarez. Arsenal's pursuit of the Atletico Madrid striker has been one of the biggest transfer sagas of the summer. The Gunners have been working on a deal because Mikel Arteta wants to make sure his squad has enough elite attacking quality for the season ahead. Arsenal have already made several important additions this summer, but Alvarez would be on another level. The Argentina international is not simply a traditional number 9. He can lead the line, drop deeper, combine with midfielders and attack spaces behind the defence. That versatility makes him particularly attractive to Arteta, but the transfer is extremely complicated. Atletico Madrid want the situation resolved quickly, with reports suggesting they want clarity by Friday so they can prepare for a replacement if Alvarez leaves. Arsenal have reportedly made an offer after Atletico named their price, but there is still significant work to do before any deal can be completed. And this is where the player's preference becomes extremely important. Alvarez's ultimate ambition is reportedly to join Barcelona. However, Atletico Madrid have again told him that they will not sell him to Barcelona. That leaves Alvarez with a difficult decision. He can remain at Atletico Madrid and attempt to rebuild his relationship with the supporters, or he can consider another destination. And Arsenal are waiting. The Gunners are prepared to continue working on the deal right until the transfer deadline, but Arsenal are not going to force the situation. If Alvarez decides that he does not want to move to London, Arsenal are reportedly comfortable with their current squad rather than simply signing another striker for the sake of it. That is a very important point. Arsenal want top quality. They do not want a panic signing. They want someone capable of making the team better. And Alvarez is exactly the type of player who fits that description. There has also been another interesting development. According to Spanish journalist Ruben Uria, Alvarez did not train with Atletico today. The reason given was an upset stomach and a poor night's sleep. Now, Arsenal fans should be careful with this information. His absence from training does not automatically mean that a transfer is happening. But because his future is already uncertain, every development is receiving enormous attention. There are also reports of a meeting between Alvarez and an Atletico Madrid chief. The purpose and outcome of that meeting are obviously being watched very closely. The situation is becoming increasingly tense. Atletico want a decision. Barcelona remains the player's reported dream destination. Arsenal are waiting for an opportunity, and the transfer deadline is getting closer. So the big question is, could Arsenal actually convince Julian Alvarez to choose the Emirates? If they can, this could become one of the biggest transfers in Arsenal's recent history. Now let's move to another major story, Gabriel Martinelli. According to the information currently being reported, Arsenal have reached an agreement with Saudi Pro League club Al Hilal for Martinelli. This could bring an important chapter of Martinelli's Arsenal career to an end. The Brazilian has been with Arsenal since 2019 and has developed from a promising young winger into an established Premier League attacker. But his future has become increasingly uncertain. Al Hilal have been pushing to sign him, and Martinelli is understood to be seriously considering a move to Saudi Arabia. For Arsenal, this would obviously create a major change in the attacking squad. Martinelli provides pace, direct running, and the ability to attack defenders one-on-one. Losing that profile means Arteta would need to carefully consider whether the current squad has enough depth, and that is why the Alvarez situation becomes even more interesting. If Martinelli leaves, Arsenal will have additional room to reshape the attack, but the club's reported approach remains clear. They don't want to simply replace one player with another without thinking about the quality and tactical fit. Arsenal have already invested heavily in their squad. They want the next addition to be someone who can take the team to another level. And that could explain why the Alvarez situation is still receiving so much attention. Meanwhile, Arsenal are also reportedly willing to listen to offers for Gabriel Jesus, while Ethan Nwaneri could potentially leave on loan. So there could be several changes to Arsenal's attacking options before the transfer window closes. Let's now talk about two other attacking names connected with Arsenal. The first is Kenan Yildiz. Arsenal are understood to have an interest in the Juventus youngster who has developed into one of the most exciting young attacking players in European football. Yildiz is technically gifted, comfortable receiving the ball between the lines and capable of playing in different attacking positions. For Arsenal, that versatility would be attractive. However, the transfer situation is not straightforward. Juventus clearly value the player highly, and Arsenal would have to decide whether a move makes sense alongside their other attacking targets. Then there is Matias Fernandes Pardo. The young attacker has also been mentioned as someone Arsenal are interested in. This fits with Arsenal's wider recruitment strategy. The club wants established stars who can contribute immediately, but they are also looking at young players who could develop into first-team assets in the future. So Arsenal's transfer strategy is not only about one big signing, it is about building a squad capable of competing for major trophies for many years. Now let's move away from transfers for a moment and talk about the Champions League. Arsenal are preparing for the league phase draw, and there are some very interesting restrictions affecting the Gunners. One important rule means Arsenal cannot be drawn away against Inter Milan. The reason is that UEFA's new regulations prevent a team from playing the same individual league phase fixture for 3 consecutive seasons. Arsenal have already played Inter away in each of the previous 2 Champions League campaigns. They lost 1-0 at San Siro in November 2024 before beating Inter 3-1 in January. Therefore, Arsenal cannot travel to San Siro again in this league phase. They can, however, face Inter at home. There is another restriction. Arsenal cannot be drawn against another English club during the league phase. That means Liverpool and Manchester City are also unavailable as opponents. And this creates a very interesting situation. Arsenal are guaranteed to face one of several major European clubs away from home. Those possibilities include Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, or Atletico Madrid. Imagine Arsenal being drawn away against Atletico Madrid while simultaneously trying to sign Julian Alvarez from them. That would be a fascinating storyline. And if Arsenal were drawn against Barcelona, that would also be extremely interesting because Alvarez reportedly has his heart set on Barcelona. The Champions League draw could therefore add another layer to an already dramatic transfer situation. The Arsenal manager has already made it clear that certain players are not going anywhere. Miles Lewis-Skelly and Martin Zubimendi are not expected to leave. The bigger question is what happens in attack. Martinelli could leave. Gabriel Jesus could be available. Nwaneri could go out on loan. So Arsenal fans, that's where we stand. Julian Alvarez remains the headline story, with Arsenal continuing to push despite the player's reported preference for Barcelona and Atletico Madrid's resistance to selling him there. Gabriel Martinelli is getting closer to an Al Hilal move, with an agreement between the clubs reportedly reached. Kenan Yildiz and Matias Fernandes Pardo remain names to watch. Igor Tyjon, Habib Oguneye and James Scanlon are expected to strengthen Arsenal's young ranks. And Arsenal are also preparing for a Champions League draw that could give us some huge European fixtures. The question now is simple. Will Arsenal finally get Julian Alvarez? Should Arsenal spend big money on the Argentine striker, or should Arteta trust the squad he already has? And if Martinelli leaves, who should replace him? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this Arsenal transfer update, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because the transfer window is approaching its climax and another major development could arrive at any moment. Thanks for watching. Come on, you Gunners!